Peace and power to the people. I'm your host, Day One,
And I'm your co-host, Insight.
and you're tuned into the Protect Your People podcast presented by the Delco Youth Hub. Thank you for tuning in today. We got a great show ahead of us. Insight, how are you feeling?
I feel blessed. How are you, Devon?
I'm good. I'm good. Low energy. It was a rainy day, so I always kind of like get tired during the rainy days. But other than that, I'm good. I can't really complain. You gonna be leading us with the check-in today?
Yes, of course. So if you had a superpower, what would it be?
If I had a superpower, I feel like I do have superpowers. But if I had a superpower that I didn't already obtain, it would be to teleport. I really, really would love to teleport. Why? Because I just got my passport, y'all, and them flights overseas is expensive. And so if I could, save a couple of dollars teleporting to Brazil instead of taking a flight out there, that would be a lot better. And also, it saves so much time, and time is so valuable. Damn, maybe that would be my superpower, just to have an unlimited amount of time. I don't know. If you had a superpower, what would it be?
I think.
What? If you had a superpower, what would it be? It's gonna be something weird.
I don't know. Probably to have like an unlimited wardrobe or something. Like whatever.
If you had a superpower, it would be to have an unlimited wardrobe.
You keep getting me for this.
This was your question. An unlimited wardrobe. So if a villain came to like destroy and take over the world,
I'll look so good. You would want to date me.
You're gonna save us with this unlimited wardrobe.
Yeah.
Okay, to each his own. In other news, we got a great show for y'all today. We got Rasan Stanback joining us from the Delco Youth Hub to give us some system education. As always, there's going to be some movement updates. And of course, we're going to vibe out. So, well then, let's jump into our community agreement for the day, shall we?
Our community agreement for today is empowerment. We encourage and support each other's growth and empowerment. We believe in the inherent strength and potential of every individual, and we strive to uplift and inspire one another. So, Day One, what does empowerment mean to you?
That's a good question. I'm kind of conflicted, right? Because I recently was having a conversation with someone, and they were telling me that empowerment as a word can be problematic and a little offensive because you can't technically give somebody power, and I think that's what's implied when we think of the word empowerment, right? But for me, when I think of empowerment, I think of you helping somebody tap into the power that already exists within them. You helping them unlock that potential that they always had and tap into those possibilities. Not necessarily giving them power, but enhancing what already was there. And so when I think of empowerment, that's what comes to mind. It's honestly one of my favorite words. And it's part of our slogan, inspire, empower, impact, for day one, not day two, right? So when you hear the word empowerment, what comes to mind?
When I hear the word empowerment, I think about empowering oneself and, developing knowledge of self and being able to lead by example so the people in, your small group or organization can look up to you.
I like that. How do you truly empower somebody? What do you think about that? How do you practice empowering others though?
How do I practice empowering other people is by giving them some of the same teachings that I've learned, which is knowledge of self, which is how to step, into leadership, right? So the things I pick up is the same thing I would give to other people so they can learn and develop themselves. So that way I'm not necessarily telling them how to be a leader, but I'm giving them the skills to develop to become a leader, just like I had to do once upon a time.
Yeah, they say knowledge is power. So that makes sense that when you think about the ways you empower people, it's giving knowledge, it's tapping into them teachings and really just sharing it with others. So yeah, I admire that and definitely resonate with that.
How would you like to be empowered as a young person?
Mm. We always think about how we can empower others and, what empowerment means when we're, thinking outside of the self, but it's rare that we think of like how we would like to be empowered. I feel like just with opportunity, when I think about what we're fighting for with this mission, whether it be like in the courts or just like equality overall, and not the equality that the Constitution provides and actually doesn't give, but I'm talking about like really truly leveling the playing field and giving everybody the opportunities that they deserve. To me, that's how I want to be empowered. And then I feel like there's also, you talked about education earlier, and there's also something about healing that I feel like is empowering. And then also for us as black people, I feel like the education and healing goes hand in hand. You said knowledge of self, and that's like really resonated with me, because when I think of how I want to be empowered and how I have been empowered, it was people giving me books. It was me learning the history of myself and of my heritage. And that's missing. It's missing in schools, it's missing in our households, it's missing just in the community. And so, yeah, maybe the truth. I would like to be empowered with the truth, with like what's really going on. Maybe, yeah, just having the opportunity to heal this like generational trauma that like sits with our people. And yeah, again, like I said, leveling that playing field. Those are ways I would want to be empowered. Great. So now it's time for our movement updates, and we're going to start off with just doing a quick little recap of our launch event for Decarcerate Delco. Last week, we officially launched a campaign to end youth incarceration in Delaware County. It's called Decarcerate Delco, and it's exactly what we set out to do. If you haven't noticed, you probably have. If you know me, I talk about this all the time. Delaware County is planning to spend $45 million to invest in a new detention center for around 7 to 10 young people per year. Doesn't make sense. And so we have this campaign where we have 3 demands. One is to treat children as children. Children belong in homes and communities. They deserve to be cared for and loved, not put in cages. Our second demand is to divest from the carceral system and invest in community alternatives that are centered in restorative and transformative justice. Right. And then our third demand is simple: don't build this new detention center. And so last week we kicked off that launch with an event. Shout out to the CAT Center for being amazing partners and hosts. We were at the CAT Center downtown in Chester. Shout out to our partners at Widener University. Shout out to the whole team that helped put this together, the Delco Youth Hub, everybody that just contributed. There was amazing food, there was amazing performances, and then we got together and we got to reimagine a world without prisons. We talked about the response to harm now, and then we brainstormed on what we actually wanted to see. How could we respond to harm in a way that doesn't perpetuate trauma but supports the young person, the community, and really moves us towards solutions? Because right now, none of these solutions these folks are giving us are working. And so that was a beautiful event. I'm excited for what's to come. There's going to be many more. We have our work cut out for us, but yeah, it was great. What was one of your favorite parts of the Decarcerate Delco launch?
I think one of my favorite parts of the Decarcerate Delco launch was the youth listening session?
Yeah.
I think that's what it was called. Just to see so many young people in that room, it was incredible.
Yeah, I think the youth listening session was also very important because there was a lot of people there. We had a lot of Widener students there, and part of what I thought was so cool about it is the fact that these are college kids. These are people that probably don't have to worry about, seeing the inside of a jail cell, and probably haven't been in a detention center, and they're coming from all over, they're just out here to go to college.
Right.
But that's impact right there. When you can impact people that aren't necessarily from your community, but they're part of your community now, I think that is like very powerful. There's a lot of power in that. And I seen us like expanding minds and shifting paradigms right in that moment. Like, we had young people that were looking up, like, what are the actual phases when somebody gets locked up, because we see what goes on in the news, and we turn on Law and Order and we get an idea about like what the criminal legal system is.
Right.
But it's not what you think. It's never what you think. It's never what you think. And so, like, just to see people say that, I actually had to look up what a disposition hearing is, or I had to look up what adjudication means, and really educating them to what's going on. I think that was super dope and super important. My favorite parts too was the youth visioning session, but I also really enjoyed the performances, because we had a lot of conversation around what the system is doing. We had a lot of conversation around what we wanted to see, but to see the performances, and we had folks who are directly impacted, young people who've been directly impacted, telling their story through poetry, through music. I think that was important, because it's one thing to hear it and talk about it, but it's something about art and creativity and music and poetry that really immerses you in the thing. It connects you with it in a different type of way. And so, yeah, I think that was dope. I'm very much looking forward to what's to come from that. And so our next movement update, we get to talk about a Spark session that is happening on May 15th at 6 p.m. at the Sculpture Garden. You can tap in with me if you want to RSVP link. Space is limited, but at this event, we're going to be exploring the impacts of media reporting on young people, and we're going to be working together to transform the way we talk about youth and youth justice issues in the media. And so we have the public defenders coming together. We have other participatory defense hubs coming together. We have the youth coming together, and we're going to really get to the bottom of how are we talking about our young people in the community? How is that impacting folks? And how can we leverage our experience, our expertise, our relationships to hold media outlets accountable, and to also build relationships with journalists, with the people who are telling these stories, to transform these narratives from, these harmful reports to, stories that actually get to the root, stories that actually tell the truth about what's going on with young people, what's going on with our communities. And I'm super excited about that. We're going to be partnering with Zealous. I already said the Philadelphia Public Defender's Office, the hubs. I think Avani from Cry said they're going to bring some folks through. Okay. Yeah, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be dope. And this is like the first event out of a series of events that we're doing. I think we're planning about 5 or 6 of these, sessions, with hope that some type of bigger project can come out of it. And so, yeah, if you're interested in being part of our first Spark session, if you want to transform the way young people are, being talked about in the news and in the media, tap in. Let us know. Finally, the Activation Tour. The Activation Tour 2024 is officially in Baltimore. I just made that up on the spot. All right, so the Activation Tour 2024 is coming to Baltimore May 18th. We're going to be at the Blackwater Lounge, and that's going to also be around 6 p.m., 7 o'clock. Music starts. There's going to be panels. There's going to be video activations, collective art activities, amazing discussions. Yes, listen, it's going to be something you don't want to miss. We've already done Denver, Detroit. We got Chicago coming up. But May 18th, We in Baltimore, baby. We in Baltimore. So you could click the link that comes up somewhere around here. There's some technology. I don't know exactly what it's going to be yet.
Their link.
The link guides are going to put something on the screen, but you could click that or scan that, whatever you do with it, and RSVP, because you're not going to want to miss this. You're definitely not going to want to miss this. You got me performing. Chairman Allen is coming out all the way from Chicago. Shout out to the chairman. Shout out to Healthy Hood. Hey, yo, we got a killer in the building. She going to shut it down. Baltimore's very own. Yo, it's going to be an amazing night. I'm super excited. I love performing in Baltimore. Baltimore is so black. Baltimore is a black city, y'all. Baltimore, you can feel it. It's rich. I like that. It's rich. Like it's a chocolate factory out there. The energy in Baltimore is just so beautiful. It's like a second home to me. I'm super excited to slide through and really connect with some of my comrades out there. And if you haven't heard about the Activation Tour, it's not just a tour. Yes, I have an album, The Activation. Yes, it's streaming on all platforms. Yes, there's probably going to be some type of scan or link that comes up where you can buy it, but it's not about that. It's not about that. The activation is about the change that we want to see in the world. And how can we activate that right now? How can we activate that right now in our community, in your house, in your relationships? How can you activate the change that you want to see in the world? And so we're doing 11 cities over the course of the next, 6 months or so. And we're not only just activating folks, we're not only just performing, we're not only just, creating art, but we're building a network. We're building infrastructures, a revolutionary community. Come on, y'all. Come on. Y'all listen. You ready? You ready? Let's activate. That's all I'm going to say. Let's activate. May 18th, we in Baltimore. Y'all going to want to come out to this. Let's activate. Let's get it. That's all I got for the movement updates.
You forgot the chant.
What?
Activation Tour
2024. We gonna be in Baltimore. We gonna be in Baltimore, baby.
Click that
Let's
link.
go. So, shall we jump into the systems education segment?
Yeah. So y'all know every episode we bring on a guest to help educate us on a system that we are fighting to abolish. Well, today we have Rasan Stanback joining us. He is a youth organizer from the Delco Youth Hub, and he's going to be talking to us about the preliminary hearing stage. Take it away, San.
What's going on, everyone? This is Rasan from the Delco Youth Hub, and today I'm here to break down a couple of ways that you could go about a preliminary hearing stage and ways to best suit it. A preliminary hearing stage is a court proceeding before a criminal trial to determine whether there is sufficient evidence. In the criminal justice system, a preliminary hearing, also known as a probable cause hearing, is best described as the trial before the trial. A preliminary hearing, also known as a preliminary examination or probable cause hearing, is a legal proceeding held after an arrest to determine whether there is enough evidence to proceed with the trial. During the preliminary hearing, a judge will listen to the testimony and review evidence presented by the prosecution to decide whether there is a probable cause to believe that the defendant committed the crimes they are accused of. Now, there's certain ways that you could go about this, but one of the main ways we really speak on is know your rights during your preliminary hearing, the rights to have an attorney present at the time of the hearing, the right to remain silent, the right to cross-examine witnesses, the right to present evidence and witnesses on your behalf, the right to request a continuance or postponement of the hearing. And here's what you can do during the preliminary hearing stage. You can advocate for the defendants to have access to an attorney if they do not have one. You can ensure that the prosecution presents sufficient evidence to establish probable cause. You could cross-examine witnesses to challenge the prosecution's case. You could present evidence or witnesses to support the defendant's case. You can also request a continuance if more time is needed to prepare a defense.
So what's one thing you know now that you wish you knew then about the preliminary hearing stage?
Something I wish I knew now about the preliminary hearing stage would be just be intact with my case. Nobody should know your case better than you. You should be fully aware of what's going on in a preliminary hearing. You really just want to have an understanding of things so you can weigh your best option out, whatever you decide to do. and you just want to have a full-on understanding of what's really going on in front of you. So I would say I would be intact. I would be more intact. I would just be even more on my case. I was already really on my case, but I would be even more on my case.
I know we've been seeing a lot of young people being advised by their lawyers to waive their preliminary hearings. We see a lot of that in Philly. We're starting to see more of that in Delco now. What is your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts? What is your advice to somebody that is, maybe trying to figure out whether or not they should waive their preliminary hearing based off of like your experience with the system?
What would I say to a person who's considering waiving their preliminary hearing? That's like a big, because waiving a preliminary hearing, to me, I just feel like it automatically cuts your options. Your preliminary hearing, it dictates what's going to be what. You can actually get a feel. You can see what's going to be what. You can actually navigate what your sentencing range might look like, whatever. You might find a loophole. The people who are originally, whoever you're being accused of or assaulted, the victims, whatever, they might not show. Who knows? Who's to say? So a preliminary hearing stage is everything. So never waive it, because that could tell you so much more that you didn't know from the beginning. It's like it gives you a feel to see what's going on with what, and you could basically decide from there. All right, once you go through the preliminary hearing stage, you could say, okay, well, they got X, Y, and Z presented already. They don't got X, Y, and Z, or whatever. You could weigh your options. You could weigh your pros and cons. So to me, I would never waive a preliminary hearing at all. A preliminary hearing is basically like, that's your start where you feel. That's where you begin. You understand? So.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like the preliminary hearing, as you alluded to, it's a trial before the trial. Now, there's a lower level of burden on the DA, but it's still your opportunity to see what type of evidence they might be producing against you. It's your opportunity to get a sneak peek at the case that they're forming. And so, why wouldn't I want to see that? Why would I not want to see that? And I think a lot of things that we take for granted is that there's a possibility of important witness might not show up. There's a possibility that somebody, it could be a police officer, it could be a witness, a victim. If they're not showing up to the preliminary hearing, there's a possibility it gets dismissed altogether. So why not? A lot of times lawyers' arguments are that we want to just show that we're playing nice. We want to, be on a good foot with the judge. They might be thinking about getting a deal, and they're like, yeah, we just want to make sure that we're on the good side of the judge and the good side of the DA. Fuck that. I'm not trying to be on nobody's good side. I get it, but it's a right. Like, it blows my mind that it's the implication there. You can make the inference that the more you exercise your rights in these courts, the more you're punished for it. Why would I not be on your good side if I decide to have my hearing? I pissed you off because I decided to exercise my constitutional right to a preliminary hearing, and so now I might not be afforded the best deal. I might not. Now, there are situations, I will say this, there are situations where it actually might make sense. There are situations where it actually might make sense. If there's evidence out there that you maybe don't want folks to see. You maybe don't want to, put a family through reliving certain things if you don't have to, if you're already planning to take accountability, or, if some things are better just left unsaid, and negotiating the deal is actually like a little better if we don't look at things a certain way. I get that. Those situations, though, are few and far between. More often than not, it's going to benefit you to have that hearing and to know what they're coming against, to know what they're bringing to the table. And so Again, we don't give legal advice. We're not lawyers, we're not attorneys. We don't give legal advice at all. All we can do is use our experience to help educate folks on what to expect. But you have to have these conversations. So something else that's taken for granted is the fact that a lot of times at these preliminary hearing stages, you're meeting your lawyer for the first time. You're meeting your lawyer for the first time a lot of time at these preliminary hearings, and it can be like you're pressured to make decisions. It can feel like that, but man, just ask for that continuance. Ask for some time. Say, Your Honor, this guy, he's probably great, but I just met him. I need some time to get to know him before we go into this preliminary hearing. We have to talk and strategize. 10 minutes before the case is not going to work. 10 minutes before the hearing is not going to work. So take your time. Don't ever feel pressured to make, a decision that you don't necessarily have to make. But yeah, thank you, bro, so much for being on here. I appreciate you educating us on this system, and I'll see you Thursday. I just want to thank everybody so much for tuning in to the Protect Your People podcast presented by the Delco Youth Hub. Again, I'm your host, Day One.
I'm your co-host, Insight.
And as always, I promise we will be better next time. Peace.